Savitri has entered into the inner countries. And first she had to push her way in to the subtle substance of the body. And she came to the area, or the level, I suppose I should say, of the sensations. And those sensations, of course, they have an instinct for delight. And they think that if they can get rid of the brain, the control of the reason, then they will be free, they can do whatever they want. But Aurobindo says that without the light of consciousness, then there can't be any bliss. So Savitri goes through this very difficult experience as if she's caught in a crowd, a rushing mob in a narrow street, and she can't get out of that mob, she's just carried along by it. But in her consciousness, she keeps herself separate. And finally, she's able, in her will, to drag herself free and concentrate on the divine name. And then things become quiet. And even that crowd of bothersome, troublesome, disturbed sensations all passes away, and there's a short interval of peace and silence. But then the next challenge comes. Into the wideness of her watching self, it brought a grandiose gust of the breath of life. Its torrent carried the world's hopes and fears, all life's, all nature's dissatisfied, hungry cry, and the longing all eternity cannot fill. It called to the mountain secrecies of the soul and the miracle of the never-dying fire. It spoke to some first inexpressible ecstasy hidden in the creative beat of life. Out of the never unseen deeps it tore its lure and magic of disordered bliss. Into earth light poured its maze of tangled charm and heady draught of nature's primitive joy, and the fire and mystery of forbidden delight, drunk from the world libido's bottomless well, and the honey-sweet poison wine of lust and death, but dreamed a vintage of glory of life's gods, and felt as celestial rapture's golden sting. The cycles of the infinity of desire, and the mystique that made an unrealized world wider than the known and closer than the unknown, in which hunt forever the hounds of mind and life, tempted a deep, dissatisfied urge within to long for the unfulfilled and ever far, and make this life upon a limiting earth a climb towards summits vanishing in the void, a search for the glory of the impossible. It dreamed of that which never has been known. It grasped at that which never has been won. It chased into an Elysian memory the charms that flee from the heart's soon lost delight. It dared the force that slays, the joys that hurt, the imaged shape of unaccomplished things, and the summons to a Circean transmuting dance, and passion's tenancy of the courts of love, and the wild beasts ramp and romp with beauty and life. It brought its cry and surge of opposite powers, its moments of the touch of luminous plains, its flame ascensions and sky-pitched vast attempts, its fiery towers of dream built on the winds, its sinkings towards the darkness and the abyss, its honey of tenderness, its sharp wine of hate, its changes of sun and cloud, of laughter and tears, its bottomless danger pits and swallowing gulfs, its fear and joy and ecstasy and despair, its occult wizardries, its simple lines and great communions and uplifting moves, its faith in heaven, its intercourse with hell. Who will start? Dhanalakshmi?
Into the wideness of her watching self, it brought a grandiose gust of the breath of life. Its torrent carried the world's hopes and fears, all lives, all nature's dissatisfied, hungry cry, and the longing all eternity cannot fill.
Life is the most energetic, dynamic part of us. No? So she is observing, there's her watching self, which is wide and vast. And now this it's like a torrent, a spate, a flood. No? It brings into that wideness a grandiose gust of the breath of life. A gust is a very strong wind. When you have a hurricane or a cyclone, they say gusting up to 300 miles an hour or whatever. A very, very strong wind. But it's a strong wind of the breath of life. It's life energy. And that flood, that torrent, that river flowing very quickly, carried all the world's hopes and fears and all the dissatisfaction of life and of nature. All lives, all nature's dissatisfied, hungry cry. And the longing all eternity cannot fill. So there's something about life which is ever dissatisfied and hungry and wanting more and more and more and more. Gumsun.
He called to the mountain secrets of the soul and the miracle of the never-dying fire. He spoke to some first inexpressible ecstasy hidden in the creative beat of life.
We'll have to pause there because the next bit is very long. So that dissatisfied, hungry cry is calling to the very heights of the soul, the mountain secrecies of the soul. And it's calling to the miracle of the never-dying fire, that flame of aspiration and will. It spoke to some first inexpressible ecstasy hidden in the creative beat of life. Typical of life is the heartbeat, the throb, which is sometimes a throb of ecstasy, but it's the throb of life, that beat that keeps coming, this rhythm. And hidden within that creative beat of life, which is always giving rise to new things, there's hidden some first inexpressible ecstasy. Ecstasy is intense delight. An intense delight that never can really be expressed. And it says that's the first inexpressible ecstasy. Perhaps this is the ecstasy of creation, this delight which has given rise to the whole of creation. It's calling for that. That is really what is powering it. But at the same time, it's calling things from below, contrasting things. Would you read that, please, Mahalingam?
Out of the nether unseen speech is lure and magic of disordered bliss. The act like food, maze of tangled charm, and heady drought of nature's primitive joy, and the fire and mystery of forbidden delights, drunk from the world libidino's bottomless well, and the honey-sweet poison wine of lust and death, or dream the vintage of glory of life's gods, and felt a celestial rapture's golden stream.
So it's calling to those high levels, but it's also tearing out of the depths, the lower unseen deeps. It's tearing this lure, this power of attraction, this magic of disordered bliss. There in the lower levels there's no consciousness, so the bliss is disordered, it's not calm delight. It seizes these things from below and pours out into the earth light, its maze of tangled charm. A maze is a labyrinth, a very complicated puzzle that you can walk into, and then it's very difficult to find your way out because the paths are all tangled, like your hair gets tangled in the wind. They're intertwining and interconnected, and you can't keep track of all that tangle. So life is like that. It's a kind of labyrinth, a maze, and it amazes us with its tangled charm, its complex confusions. And it also pours out into the earth light its heady draught. A draught is a drink, and particularly a drink that intoxicates you. If it's heady, it goes to your head and makes your head swirl and turn round and round. This is the heady draught of nature's primitive joy. I suppose it means joy that's not at all under control of the mind. The way things are just very, very spontaneous and intense. The delight of the tiger in devouring its prey, all these kind of things. And it's also pouring out this fire, this burning hot flame and mystery of forbidden delight, things that we should not be delighting in. That is drunk, this heady draught is drunk from the bottomless well, deep, deep, deep well, where this drink, this intoxicating drink is coming up from the world libido. Can you explain to us what the libido is, Joel?
The libido is it's related to the sexual energies.
It's the pleasure-loving part of us.
Yeah, something like that.
Sensual pleasures, something like that.
Something supposed to drive us.
It's a drive, yeah. Drives us to seek this primitive kind of joy. Perhaps we can say that. And it, apart from that heady draught, it gives this honey sweet poison wine. It's very sweet to taste, it's attractive, enjoyable like honey, but it's poisonous. The poison wine of lust and death. Lust when we want to possess things. But that poison wine, that honey sweet poison wine, is dreamed, is experienced as a vintage of glory. The very, very best wines, we would choose a particular vintage. Well, that's got a particularly refined and wonderful taste. But so this is we think that this honey sweet poison wine is a vintage of glory coming from the gods of life, and the effect of it is experienced as a heavenly rapture, celestial rapture, golden rapture, but it has a sting in its tail. Joel.
The cycles of the infinity of desire and the mystic that made an unrealized world wider than the known and closer than the unknown, in which hunt forever the hounds of mind and life, tempted a deep dissatisfied urge within to long for the unfulfilled and ever far, and make this life upon the limiting earth a climb towards summits, vanishing in the void, a search for the glory of the impossible.
So this is a side of this, an aspect of this unsatisfied, hungry cry of life. Because there are these cycles, these circling, repetitive movements of the infinity of desire that's endless, that can never be satisfied, that combines with this mystique, this mystical magic that's created an unrealized world, a world that hasn't been manifested yet, wider than the known, closer than the unknown. It's a subtle world, no? And in that unrealized world, mind and life are always hunting for something, like hunting dogs. They are running after the trace of something. So that movement of the ever unsatisfied hunt of mind and life, this attracts, it tempts some deep dissatisfied urge within, on the inner levels, to long for the unfulfilled and ever far. It wakes up some kind of aspiration, a longing to make this life, or no, this urge makes this life upon a limiting earth into a climb towards summits vanishing in the void, heights that we can't see the top even. There's something that makes us aspire for great impossible things, a search for the glory of the impossible. So that's something that's there in life, the urge for something better and higher and more impossible, that's challenging, and there's no limit to that. Gangalakshmi.
We dream of that which never has been known. We grasp at that which never has been known. We chase into Elysian memory the charms that flee from the heart's soon lost delight. We bear the force that slays, the joys that hurt, the image shape of unaccomplished things, and the summons of Circean transmuting dance, and passion's tendency of the courts of love, and the wild beats run and romp with the beauty and light.
So that longing, that deep dissatisfied urge within, it's not satisfied with anything that is here in the manifestation. It's dreaming of that which never has been known, and it grasps at things which have never been won or gained. This reaching for the impossible, it's actually a very important part of the life urge, no? Because that's what makes us break our limits and go further. That urge chased into an Elysian memory. The Champs-Élysées, the Elysian fields, are the heavenly fields where the blessed spirits walk. No? So there's some memory of the higher heavens. It's chasing into that memory. It's chasing after charms, kinds of delight that run away from the delight which our heart experiences. We may have some thrills some enjoyments. But beyond them, there's some further charm, something better, sweeter, more attractive. No? And that urge, it dared the force that slays. It's ready to face anything, even destruction, the joys that hurt. It dares to follow or follow after an imaged shape, an imagined shape of things that haven't yet ever been achieved, unaccomplished things. It dares to follow the summons to a Circean transmuting dance. Circean, this is from the name of the goddess Circe, who is in the story of Odysseus, of Ulysses. This is one of the old Greek epics. Yes, the hero Odysseus and his sailors, they're trying to get back home, but the god of the sea is against them, so he won't let them. Every time they get near home, he sends them off, calls up a storm, sends them somewhere else. But finally, they reach this island in the sea. There doesn't seem to be anybody there, but there's beautiful music in the air. It's all very, very pleasant. So they send some of the sailors off to go and look what they can find, scouts. But they don't come back. So he sends off some more. And finally he goes himself. And he reaches in the center of the island. There's an open space with a table that's been laid with all kinds of wonderful food, and there's music and fragrances and perfumes. And he realizes that his sailors have found this place and they've devoured the food and they've all got turned into pigs. So these are the delights that Circe offers you, that turn you into an animal. And then he himself somehow has to master that enchantress. He has to make her do his will. And then he can get his sailors back and they can go away. So a Circean transmuting dance, there's a kind of dance that's so delightful, but actually what it does is it turns you into an animal. And it dared also passion's tenancy of the courts of love. There was a time in the Middle Ages when the upper classes, they had this idea of the courts of love. They wrote a lot of poetry about it also. But that was platonic love. It was not supposed to be sexual love. It was supposed to be a very kind of high, ideal kind of love, in which there would be the lady who is the object of worship, and all the men around would only wish to serve her and follow her. And this would be a way by which they would become more refined. But if passion comes into these courts of love, then of course it all becomes much more exciting, but it loses that refinement. Then we have the wild beasts ramp and romp. These are very enjoyable ideas, actually. The ramp, the lion hunting, the tiger hunting, he's ramping. And romping is a kind of ramping that children do, or that we do with children. Violent play. Yeah. So the wild beasts ramp and romp with beauty and life. Bhavan.
It brought its strife and surge of opposite powers, its moments of the touch of luminous flame, its flame ascensions and sky-pitched warm attempts, its 5 towers of dream built on the wind, its sinkings towards the darkness and the abyss, its honey of tenderness, its short wine of hate, its changes of sun and cloud, of laughter and tears, its bottomless danger face and swallowing gulls, its fear and joy and ecstasy and despair, its utter wizardries, its simple lines, and great communions and uplifting moods, its faith in heaven, its intercourse with hell.
So what this torrent of life energy brings is a cry, a call, and a surge, a great wave or waves of opposite powers. There's always this opposition. First of all, he tells about the more positive things. It's moments of the touch of luminous planes. This life energy, it can be touched with the light of higher planes. It's flame ascensions. It's intense upward climbing energies. We need the vital to give us that up power to really make powerful upward movements. It's sky-pitched, vast attempts, great efforts that aim for the sky. It's fiery towers of dreams, wonderful visions, but they're only built on the winds. And on the other hand, there are its sinkings towards the darkness and the abyss. There's contrasting things, the honey of tenderness, the sweetness, and the sharp wine of hate. Wine is also a kind of ananda, so there's something in us, in the life force, that also enjoys that sharp wine of hate. And there are these alternations, the changes of sun and cloud, of laughter and tears. And then there are these bottomless danger pits. It can lead us terribly astray. It's swallowing gulfs. We just get lost in those swallowing gulfs. It's fear. But then there's the joy and the ecstasy and the despair. All these contrasts. It has a side of occult wizardries, absolutely magical, hidden, complicated things that are really not easy to make or to do. And then it's simple lines. There's something in us that likes that also. Simplicity, plainness, openness. There are its great communions, connections, interchanges, and uplifting moves. There's its faith. Real faith needs the support of the vital. Its faith in heaven, and its intercourse, its conversations, its exchanges with hell. So all the opposites in very intense forms.
These powers were not belong with the dead weight of the earth. They gave ambitious taste and poison to spring. There was an azure in the cage of life, and so heaven blew in the gray air of night. The impulses God was showed on the wind.
Yes. So when we are here in the material body, there's something that weighs us down. So we don't experience all these things with so much intensity. But now Savitri is in this vital life plane in the body, and she experiences that they are not blunt. When the the scissors won't cut anymore, that's blunt. She experiences them with all their intensity. Right? So they gave the taste of ambrosia. It's the food of the gods. And then the sting of poison. There was an ardor, a burning enthusiasm in life's power of vision, in the gaze of life, that saw heaven blue in the grey air of night. There's something about life's way of looking at things that can turn things which are very shadowy, grey. It can see them as bright and blue. Mm-hmm. And the impulses, the vital impulses, rose upwards towards God on these wings of passion, of intense feeling. Rosa.
Mind quick purpose thought floated from their high necks, a glowing splatter as of
Iris.
Name, period of pure intuitions, light as flame food, the rock they could imitate. Mind's voices, mimicked inspirations, stress, its
Ictus
of infallibility, its steep and lightning current leap of the gods.
Yes. So here when he says the impulses Godward soared on passion's wings, now in the next line that follows, it shows us that he's thinking about a winged horse or horses. The impulses are soaring up like winged horses. Their wings are made of passion. And they've got beautiful hair, beautiful manes floating from their high necks. These are minds, quick-paced thoughts. The vital urges give the mind a lot of energy and dynamism also. No? So those thoughts make an irised mane for the winged horses. And irised means with all the colors of the rainbow, highly colored, beautiful colors. And that is like a parure. What is a parure? Yeah? We have necklaces and earrings and tiara. It's all together, it's a parure. Yeah?
Il y a plusieurs couleurs.
So,
Ça dépend.
So it's as if they are all dressed up with this sparkling jewelry that is like the pure light of intuition, but it might be fake. It's not really intuition. So these horses, these vital horses flying Godwards on passion's wing, they can imitate the gallop, the flame-foot gallop of intuition. And they look, their appearance suggests intuition. And the voices of the mind mimic inspiration, the stress, the rhythm of inspiration. It's ictus of infallibility. Ictus is also a stress, weight falling on a particular word in poetry. So these rhythms that the mind develops under the influence of these passions, they imitate intuition and inspiration and infallible revelation. That's what they bring. And this speed and lightning heavenly of the gods. It's not the real thing, but it's something that's very like it, gives an appearance of the intuition and the inspiration. That's why they carry us away on their wings of passion. We'll stop there.
Into the wideness of her watching self, it brought a grandiose gust of the breath of life. Its torrent carried the world's hopes and fears. All life's, all nature's dissatisfied, hungry cry, and the longing all eternity cannot fill. It called to the mountain secrecies of the soul and the miracle of the never-dying fire. It spoke to some first inexpressible ecstasy hidden in the creative beat of life. Out of the nether unseen deeps it tore its lure and magic of disordered bliss. Into earth-light poured its maze of tangled charm and heady draught of nature's primitive joy, and the fire and mystery of forbidden delight drunk from the word libido's bottomless well, and the honey-sweet poison wine of lust and death, but dreamed a vintage of glory of life's gods, and felt as celestial rapture's golden sting. The cycles of the infinity of desire, and the mystique that made an unrealized world wider than the known and closer than the unknown, in which hunt forever the hounds of mind and life, tempted a deep, dissatisfied urge within to long for the unfulfilled and ever far, and make this life upon a limiting earth a climb towards summits vanishing in the void, a search for the glory of the impossible. It dreamed of that which never has been known. It grasped at that which never has been won. It chased into an Elysian memory the charms that flee from the heart's soon lost delight. It dared the force that slays, the joys that hurt, the imaged shape of unaccomplished things, and the summons to a Circean transmuting dance, and passion's tenancy of the courts of love, and the wild beasts ramp and romp with beauty and life. It brought its cry and surge of opposite powers, its moments of the touch of luminous plains, its flame ascensions and sky-pitched vast attempts, its fiery towers of dream built on the winds, its sinkings towards the darkness and the abyss, its honey of tenderness, its sharp wine of hate, its changes of sun and cloud, of laughter and tears, its bottomless danger pits and swallowing gulfs, its fear and joy and ecstasy and despair, its occult wizardries, its simple lines, and great communions and uplifting moves, its faith in heaven, its intercourse with hell. These powers were not blunt with the dead weight of earth. They gave ambrosia's taste and poison's sting. There was an ardour in the gaze of life that saw heaven blue in the grey air of night. The impulses Godward soared on passion's wings. Mind's quick-paced thoughts floated from their high necks, a glowing splendour as of an irised mane, a parure of pure intuition's light. Its flame-foot gallop they could imitate. Mind's voices mimicked inspiration's stress, its ictus of infallibility, its speed and lightning heaven leap of the gods.